Hi, welcome to LFpress.com and the Political Beat. I'm Patrick Maloney, City Hall Bureau Chief for the London Free Press, and with me is Junior City Hall reporter Chip Martin.
He's the chief, I'm the Indian.
I wanted to ambush you with that, just to get your reaction. I can't remember. Could you imagine if I seriously called myself
the chief,
the City Hall Bureau Chief?
Yeah.
What where City would like drag me into the parking lot. He'd be like, "Get over here, knucklehead." There's two of you there. Chip, on Tuesday, December 11th, what I would consider to be a very historic vote goes to Council's Joni Beckledge motion requesting, politely, that the mayor temporarily leave office pending resolution of the criminal charges he faces. Looking to me very much like that motion is going to be defeated by a slim council majority. The word embarrassing comes to mind for the city, that you can't even get a majority of councillors to agree that maybe this isn't the best political situation.
We have party politics. Apparently we have one party, and it's the mayor's party, and that seems to be carrying the day. You know, he was the party whip for the Liberals. He was an MP.
Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
He was. And so the Fontana 8, as we've been calling them, seem to be hanging tough. It's almost like the introduction of party politics to local government.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, you get people dug in, and you get people. The one good thing about, well, there's many good things about local government, but you have a lot of interesting viewpoints and takes. These people are still involved in the community in terms of working, volunteering, and that sort of thing. This level of government is closer to the people than any level of government.
For sure.
You get Parliament Hill or you get Queen's Park, and these people get removed. They get into that culture, into that bubble, and they aren't as connected to the community anymore. Quite frankly, I think the community has many different viewpoints and many different voices, and that's why I like the independence of City Council, because bottom line is these people can disagree depending on the issue, depending on what's going on, what part of the city. They can have a different viewpoint, but if you're always voting as a voting bloc, as in party politics, I don't think it does a real good service to the citizens.
Would you agree with this, that they're not voting based on issues? They're saying, well, Paul Hubert wants that, I'm not voting for that, or Joe Swan likes that, I'm not voting for that.
Well, I think the Police Services Board vacancy last night, that was an example of the Fontana 8. The supporters of Mayor Fontana are now chair of all the standing committees, and now this is an arm's length body that oversees the Police Services Board, and another supporter of Mayor Joe is now going to be appointed to that body, when another candidate who was not a Fontana 8 member had his name in there as well, and didn't get a chance.
And can you remind me again why they needed to appoint a new person to the Police Services Board?
There was a vacancy created on the Police Services Board with the resignation of one of its members.
And which member would that be?
It would be Mayor Joe Fontana, because pursuant to provincial legislation, you cannot be facing criminal charges and also sit on the Police Services Board. And he is charged with 3 criminal counts relating to his federal checks used to pay for his son's wedding in 2005 when he was an MP.
I'd forgotten about that. Okay. 2013 budget was tabled last night, which is in front of you here. It's approximately, what, 700 pages?
Yes.
$1 billion?
It's something like 15 pounds and 5 inches thick. And for those of you with a life to live, there's the Coles Notes version, which comes out as a little brochure with pie charts, and all the material in here is distilled down to this.
Do you know how much work Martin Hayward and Larry Palarchio and everybody put into that thing, and you just besmirch it?
I didn't besmirch it. This is a huge amount of work, and it's a lot of reading, but it'll tend to put you to sleep. If you need a real quick overview, this is available from City Hall, and we'll tell you the highlights of what's in here. If you need the details, if you need the micro details, it's all there, I assure you.
Let's distill it even further to what we have on the front page today. Two magic numbers. They're at 2.5% right now. That is to say, if they approve the budget today the way it stands, you and me and everybody else would be getting a 2.5% tax hike. Looks like a council majority wants to bring that down to 0. The difference is $11.5 million in spending.
And the important thing for our viewers and for homeowners is that a 2.5% budget that they brought in represents $59 on the average assessed home, which in London is $202,000. $202,000.
So if your house is $404,000, your bill would go up
2 times 59, which is 118.
Right. Okay. Landmark budget being helmed by the mayor in what I would consider many people to be something of a controversy. It's a $1 billion budget. There's a lot of questions about the need to get to a third straight zero, the ability to get to a third straight zero,
and the desirability of getting to a third straight zero, given the implications that may occur. It's they're getting close to the bone now, and there's a serious concern, Pat, that the essential services are going to be impacted. Police and fire came in well above the 0%, and because 90% or more of their budget is in staffing, the serious concern is that we will see some layoffs at both police and fire if the 0% is
yes,
pushed
but
through.
I'm not. I don't like to sound the alarm because I'm not so sure that we can't afford some layoffs in police and fire.
Well,
let me rephrase this.
I don't disagree with you.
I think that the shame of this whole RCMP scandal involving the mayor is that it has derailed what I believe is certainly a possibility. There is plenty of fat to cut still to deliver a tax freeze. This is my belief. There's lots of fat that can be cut, not inside City Hall, but at those boards and commissions. The savings are there to be found, but the whole thing could be derailed because those tough decisions can't be made. It's not tough to defer money from reserve funds, which you and I both know some councillors, many councillors are going to want to do. That's easy, right? That's easy to do that. To take money from a savings account, let's not put it in there, let's put it to hold down taxes this year.
True.
But it's tough to lay off some firefighters, right?
It is.
But you can't do that when you're already under the gun for various and sundry other things.
Well, yeah, but there are things. I agree with you. There may be still some fat there, but we're getting very close to seeing some things that are going to. It gets down to quality of life issues. I mean, this council is going full tilt in terms of economic development, adding industrial land and adding extensions of the Southwest Area Plan for more commercial and residential. They want to get money coming into the city, but the problem is, in order to do that, there has to be expenditures, and we're seeing already there's some shortfalls there. But quality of life, I agree that perhaps we don't need, say, 14 police officers at a bank robbery. It's a victimless crime, basically, if no one's hurt. Victimless crime, why you have 14 police officers and ident people and everything for an entire day, or when there's a standoff or something. There seems to be a very, very large police response to a number of these things that I have to wonder if it's really that needed.
I would say that my concerns aren't so much with the police budget, although I do have significant concerns with how much it's gone up in the last decade. The fire department, I think, I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about how many firefighters we have, how much they're paid. 1 out of every 4 members of the London Professional Firefighters Association is making more than $100,000. 1 out of every 4.
And many of them also have other jobs as well.
Well, yeah, that's their business. They're free to do that, right? That's the way that their lifestyle works, and that's fine. But
the point is, they're not hurting.
They're not hurting, but the city, I believe, is hurting. I think taxpayers are hurting. Anyway, I guess my point ultimately, not to pick on cops and firefighters, but there's savings to be found. There are tough decisions to be made. I don't know if the political capital is there for the mayor to lead council into making those tough decisions, because you're getting booed when the Christmas train pulls into town. Ma and Pa are there with the little kids, the Christmas spirit, and it's not bah humbug, it's boo humbug. They're booing the mayor when he introduces the thing or whatever he did.
They produced some numbers last night to indicate that it costs less than a cup of coffee, one of these $1.60 cups of coffee per day per household for policing and for fire and some other services that are delivered. We do seem to get good value for it, but there may be, as you say, there may be some more fat to trim. But we're starting to get into things like, if potholes aren't filled, then people are making claims against City Hall for damage to vehicles, and some of these cuts aren't the wisest and can come back to bite, including transferring stuff from reserve funds.
Well, how about if you have any friends who are disabled, as I do, they're going to cut again the budget for sidewalk snowplow clearing, or sidewalk snow clearing. So guess what? If there's a blizzard, you're not leaving your house, pal.
Or affordable housing. I think there's $1 million cut targeted from there. I mean, there's a long waiting list for people that have limited means and that are really struggling to get into some assisted housing. And quite frankly, you have to. It's quality of life. The city has to have a heart. You're getting into that area now that I think we're going to start seeing some very interesting decisions that have to be made that are going to have some long-term implications.
Okay, so if you got out your crystal ball and you were looking ahead to the end of February, sorry, when I said that, it just made me think of the Mother Teresa yearbook. But if you looked ahead to the end of February, right? Are we going to get attacked?
February 28th.
Did you not laugh? You're not laughing at my joke.
I don't.
You don't think it's appropriate? Okay, so the end of February, crystal ball.
My kids went to Lucas. That thing would never happen.
Oh, that sort of thing would never happen in the public school.
Not in a public school.
But if you were looking at February 28th, will there be a tax freeze in 2013?
I think they'll get close, but I don't think they'll get there. I think that when all is said and done, I think we're going to get very close, but it'll be close enough that the mayor will say, well, we got pretty close to it. That's pretty.
So you don't think it'll happen? Do you think that they'll use reserve funds to get within shouting distance of it?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of shouting. Talking about shouting distance,
Oh, yeah.
there's going to be a lot of shouting before we're said and done. I know the mayor would dearly love to have another freeze, and a number of members of council. I think the public, I think it's going to depend on the pressure the public brings to bear on the politicians as we get down to the final days on this budget. Once we see some of the implications of a 0%, I think political pressure will mount, and we'll see what these members of council are made of.
I think this council has proved this Fontana 8 has proved itself impervious to public pressure. It is my prediction that the 8 will vote against the Beckler motion to ask the mayor to leave. Could there be any more public pressure on an issue? And some of them are actually telling me, oh, you know what? I don't think people want us to deal with this. They want us to just move on. I mean, I'm astonished by that perspective. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't know, but
well, I don't know.
But I don't think public pressure. I think these people are almost immune to public pressure. The 8 of them, that Fontana 8.
Well, if they act like they're immune to public pressure, we're 2 years away from the next election. We'll have to see how good the memories of Londoners are. I mean, these people are there to serve us, and if we speak as a voice, or enough of us speak with a loud enough voice, one hopes that they will pay attention.
Yeah, we'll see. Chip, another issue, maybe you can put it into context for people that wouldn't understand it, which would be pretty much everybody except for you and maybe a couple of city staff, the stormwater ponds.
Well, around the city in all these new residential developments, you'll see these ponds that are usually by a roadway, and these things are required by provincial law to slow the runoff following a big rain event. The idea is to reduce erosion and to try to do a good thing for the environment, because when you replace natural tree cover and grass and fields with rooftops and asphalt and that sort of thing, the runoff is a lot faster. The idea is to slow them down, to slow the runoff down. The problem is we've just discovered this week that there's a looming shortfall there's 10 funds that are used to pay for development in the city. One of them is what's called the Stormwater Management Reserve Fund, and that pays for these things, which are quite expensive. The problem is that it's not funded adequately, it's out of date, and the city was warning that within the next couple of years there will not be enough money in these to pay for further management ponds, and in fact that unless there's a significant increase in development charges or deferral of development, they have to find a way through this to solve this. They're going to sit down with stakeholders, with the development industry, and try to work out a plan. But for right now, you have the city. I mean, just this week, 3 stormwater management ponds were approved on Monday night, and on Tuesday night, they see a report that, in fact, we're running out of money in that fund, and if we don't get more money in there fast through higher fees or just defer development, we're in trouble.
Slow development, slow the economic growth.
Well,
that 2 minutes ago we were talking about.
That's right, and the city has dedicated itself to economic development, and you saw in the Southwest Plan they want additional lands for residential, they want additional lands for commercial. Well, these ponds are used for residential, and in fact, if you're trying to get money in because you're developing residential, but you're not putting out enough money to pay for these ponds, that puts our future and development in jeopardy, so at risk. So we have to, that has to be addressed. That's a serious issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to your point, it sort of conflicts with at least what council wants us to believe, that there's a push for economic development, right?
That's right. You have to make certain provisions in order to have economic development occur. And when you make decisions adding additional lands for industrial purposes or residential purposes or whatever, you have to understand the implications of that. And most of the time those implications are financial. So that here you are, the people that are pushing hardest for the extension of residential and industrial and economic development in the city seem to be members of the Fontana 8, who are also committed to a 0% tax increase. Something's got to give.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Chip, very much. So on behalf of Junior City Hall reporter Chip Martin, I'm Bureau Chief Pat Maloney saying thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I'm not sure. We will.